We're going in, guys. Three Bowl Takes again with another prediction video. This time we have number 14 Clemson and number 1 ranked Georgia at 11 o'clock this Saturday on ABC. Am I reading that right? Georgia's a 13.5-point favorite with an 82% chance, according to ESPN, to win the game. Boy, Vegas and ESPN does not like the Clemson Tigers. How do you guys feel about them?
Look, I don't blame them for not liking Clemson, not after what we've seen the last 2 years. I know they made an Orange Bowl 2 years ago, but they got run out of the building by a backup quarterback with Tennessee after we watched. And they also lost the battle for the Palmetto State with South Carolina right before that. So not a good look. And then last year, they fell off in the middle of the year. They got hot near the end. I think this could be such a huge opportunity for Clemson if you beat Georgia going into ACC play, especially with Florida State losing in week 0 to Georgia Tech. I mean, the momentum is all Tigers if you get this win over Georgia. That being said, Georgia can't lose this. But they know that. Their SEC slate is so freaking hard this year. They got road games with Bama. They got a road game with Ole Miss. They got a road game with Texas. They got Tennessee on the schedule. It's brutal. They cannot lose. And apparently Georgia Tech might be pretty good too. So we'll see what happens there. But they cannot afford to lose to Clemson in week 1. I got the Dogs winning. I think they probably, honestly, I think Georgia in a lot, I don't want to just compare them to Nick Saban and Alabama because I don't think that's fair to Georgia. But in a lot of ways, they've taken on that role in college football right now where they're the team to beat. And you look throughout history, the team to beat, you give them these week 1 matchups that you think is someone who could upset them. And then they get run out of the stadium. And I'm afraid that might happen to Clemson. I got Georgia by 23 points over the Tigers in Atlanta.
And everybody probably has their binoculars out right now, zeroed in on Quinn and saying, this guy is insane. Is this guy? And he's actually kind of right. Even my eyes boggle at that statement, but it's not far off. And I'll say this, it's not because of Clemson. I think Clemson will play fairly well. And I'm more worried about this game if you sandwich Clemson in the middle of Georgia's SEC schedule. But week 1, they're healthy, they're fresh, they're coming off of a really good season, but that they didn't get to where they wanted to be. This is a no-brainer for Georgia. Everything, no offense, Quinn, but everything Quinn was saying last week about Florida State potentially coming out and having that vengeance from last year, that's what's going to happen with Georgia. Georgia's going to come out and absolutely drum Clemson because they didn't make the national championship game, because they didn't make the playoffs. They're going to pick up where they left off with Florida State, and they have the problem with Florida State and Georgia is there's a culture difference. Kirby Smart has his culture in tow. They have the right guys, and they're going to play ball. They're going to come out and play really fast, really physical, really strong. And that's what's going to happen in this first game. Again, this game is going to be a lot different if you're playing it between Ole Miss and Alabama or something, or Texas or whoever. A lot different. I'm more worried. But right now, I'm paying my right eye is more focused on Western Kentucky and Alabama, the DeBoer era, than it is on Clemson and Georgia. I can't lie to you.
Let me say this really quick before you jump in, Freddie. I think this could be a lot like Oregon 2 years ago. Oregon got destroyed by Georgia in week 1. And that Oregon team wasn't bad. And that was not a reflection. Yeah, they just were not ready for that in week 1. I think Clemson won't get killed that bad. They've got a 2-time national championship winning head coach with a stable culture.
Yeah.
And they could still go on to win the ACC, and this may be their only loss of the year, but they're taking a loss.
Yeah, there's just no if, and, or but around it. Like Georgia is a quality team. They're going to come out and play ball. I'm going to side with Quinn here. I think it's a 20+ point victory for the Dogs in week 1. I don't think you can look at it any differently. And shout out to Clemson. They had a great season at the end of the year last year, and I think they can have a good season this year. But they're probably going to get embarrassed on national TV. And it's just because Georgia is a consensus national champion contender.
Your take on Georgia coming in motivated because they should have been in the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. They should have won the SEC championship game. The Florida State they were undefeated. They did not lose a game. Georgia lost a game. Now, granted, I don't care if it was to Alabama last game of the year, whatever they deserve to be, and they were one of the 4 best teams, and they were. They could have beat Michigan. They could beat Alabama if they'd have played again. The problem is they lost the game. That's my biggest problem with that argument. Now, when it comes to Clemson, their defensive line is going to be very good this year. I think that's the most stable thing about Clemson throughout, the Dabo Swinney era. No matter if it was last year or when they were going undefeated and winning national championships, their defensive line was very, very good, and that's going to continue. My biggest question mark for Clemson is Cade Klubnik. Can he get a tick better than he was last year? There was moments last year where he showed how good he could be, and then there were moments they showed how good he actually was, and that was abysmal. If he got a little bit better in the offseason and is stable and doesn't turn the ball over a lot like he did last year, Clemson could have a really good year this year, a bounce back from last year. But that being said, though, Georgia is the far more superior team. I mean, you look at Clemson, they're the only FBS team besides the service academies that did not take a transfer in this year. And keep in mind, the service academies cannot use the transfer portal. So let that sink in. They are the only team. I've got Georgia winning this game. I don't think it's going to be a 20-point blowout, though. If you look at this game a couple years ago when it was 9-6, I know that was completely different. Clemson had a different quarterback, all these things. But I think this is going to be a defensive struggle for the first half of football, to me. And I've got Georgia winning by the spread's 13.5. I think Georgia will end up winning by 10 points. I don't think they're going to light the scoreboard up in week 1. There's still probably going to be some kinks with new receivers and this and that coming in, although they had a lot of returning talent. So I've got Georgia to win, but I've got a little bit closer than you guys. Perfect. Well, that's all that we have for this Clemson and Georgia game here. Very excited for this one, ABC 11 o'clock. Let us know down below where we're wrong, where we should improve on in our analytics or our predictions. We'll see you guys next week. Keep in mind, we've got videos coming out all the time for predictions and reactions throughout the college football year. We'll see you guys next week. I'm Freddie. I've been joined by Chase and Quinn, and we're out.